Thank you, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. We're very pleased to have as our guest today on News Extra Senator Steve Erdman, right before a legislative session that, even though it's only the 60-day session, the budget's going to be talked about, taxes are going to be talked about, and it's real good to have Senator Erdman here with us, especially since you have a solution to the property tax issue, at least something you think they should consider, right?
That is right, Kevin. That's correct. We have, on the last day of the legislature on May 23rd, I made an announcement that anybody who was interested in property tax relief, please join me in the rotunda. We're going to have a press conference. About 12 senators joined me that day, and I made an announcement that anyone who was interested in property tax relief, please join me. To my surprise, a lot of urban people stepped up, farm groups. A gentleman by the name of Trent Fellers came forward and said, I'll take care of that. I'll run that meetings for you and try to put this together. And he brought a coalition of people together from sometimes we'd meet with 35, sometimes 25 during the summer. And we had two questions that we needed answer to. First question was, how much property tax relief should we seek? And the answer was pretty easy. 30% was the answer. The second question is, how do we do it? That took a few more meetings, Kevin, as the summer unfolded. We came up with a proposal that you would receive the property tax credit would be a refund or a credit on your income tax, equal to up to the 50% that you pay to your local school. So, for example, if your property tax is $1,000, generally most school systems collect about 60% of the property tax. So, in that example, the school would get $600 of the $1,000, and out of that $600, you'd get a refund or a credit of $300, equaling 30% relief on your property tax. So that's the proposal that's coming forward. The petition should be out this next week, start to collect signatures, and our goal is to make or force the legislature to finally make some decisions about cuts, because we haven't done that for a long time.
And if they don't do it, the petition's on the ballot, right?
I'm going to introduce the same legislation January 3rd. Give the body a chance to approve it. If they don't, the petition will be there to back it up, and we'll put it on the ballot in November, and you and all of those people who pay property tax can vote on it.
All right. The elephant in the room is, how do you pay for those tax credits?
That, Kevin, is a very good comment. Our plan is we'll put this in place, and we'll deal with that later. But here's where you go with that. If you are in favor of paying for it, if you are saying we have to find funding to pay for this, that's the liberal approach, okay? That's the approach that says we want government to continue to grow like it always has. We're happy with the size of government. The conservative approach, my approach is, what can we cut? And there are numerous things that we can cut. And so I haven't made an announcement what those are, but there's hundreds of them. Non-essential things the state does. And I'm not willing to bring those forward because that's not my decision to make. It'll be up to the legislature. But the point is, if you're a conservative, you say, what can we cut? Government is too big. And if you're a liberal, you say, how are we going to pay for this? And so that's the strategy.
Sales tax exemptions, do we look at that? I mean, you could, if you took away all the sales tax exemptions that we have, that, I know this would cost, like, I think you estimated it the last time I talked to you, like $1.2 million or something
Correct.
like that. That could almost take half of it right there, couldn't it?
Well, sales tax exemptions is one of them. We have shifted, the state has shifted approximately $1.5 billion in property tax from other taxes to property tax over the last 15 years. They're not willing to shift it back. But the point is, we have the Nebraska Advantage Act. In a year or two, it's going to be $500 million. We have all kinds of other incentives, the LB 840 money. TIF financing takes away a bunch of property tax. I mean, all these things that we give away are about $2 billion a year that we give away in tax incentives. So what is wrong? Why do we do that? Is because our tax system is broken and we spend too much. There's only one way that I figured out that you can cut taxes by cutting spending, and I'm willing to do that.
Okay. What does the governor say? I know you had a recent meeting with him.
He's real happy about it, and we had a frank, straight up discussion about it. He's not at all happy about the petition. He wants the petition to go away. He has called it a fantasy. I'll tell you what a fantasy is. It's the budget that he brought forward last year being $250 million higher than it needed to be. And I told him that in May when they brought it to the floor, and I voted against it. And I brought out a budget amendment that would have adopted last year's budget as it was after we made the adjustments of $80 million, it would have been about right. So the fantasy is thinking that we're going to get a 5.5% increase in revenue and we're going to spend all of that. That's where the fantasy is. And so if you don't want property tax relief, then that's what you do. You attack the plan.
Okay. We'll be back right after this, talk about a few other things. All right, Dana, here we are, coming back in 3, 2, 1. Back on News Extra, we have Senator Steve Erdman here with us today, and we want to talk about some other things besides property tax, even though we know that's a big issue. The state patrol situation, where we had a bunch of people fired, some of them put on leave, some of them demoted. Do we have an issue at the state patrol, or have we corrected it now with what was done after the investigation?
Well, Kevin, the state patrol issue is one that bothers me a lot. It involves the troopers out here in the western part of the state, and it put us in a shorthanded way. What has happened in the state patrol, the investigation that took over a year and a half, that should have never taken that long. It's peculiar to me that you have the organization review its procedures on its own instead of having an outside individual or someone look at that. I know the situation not as well as I could, but I understand what happened in those two situations. The issue with Officer Flick that they fired, they had a grand jury in Sheridan County, and the grand jury found no fault with Trooper Flick, and I don't understand what exactly happened there, but I do have an appointment on January 29th with the State Patrol to talk about these issues. What I'm concerned about is those people on the road, those troopers on the road, don't feel as though they have the support of those behind them, and they very well may make some decisions about the things they do because of the ramifications of their decision that puts them in danger. And that is a very serious position that the people on the road don't feel like they're being supported as they should be.
Okay. What about, well, we'll see what happens when your conversation on the 29th. Corrections. We have a corrections system we got way too many people in prison. They're in overcrowded prisons. We have problems keeping people working in those prisons. How do we solve it?
One of the issues that I see in corrections on some of the employees there, we spend time training them, the state does, and we get them trained well, and then they move on to another correctional facility, maybe a Lancaster County or Douglas County facility. And so we need to look at what we pay, what our compensation is. I told Frakes, the director Frakes, about changing the culture, and Kevin, over a time, there's only one way you can basically change culture. Sometimes you need to change the people. So he's working on it. He understands what's going on there, and undoubtedly we're going to have to put some money at this. I have a meeting tomorrow with some people, talk about mandatory minimums and some of those things about parole, and so we're trying to figure ways to alleviate some of that pressure on the overcrowding.
All right. The budget itself, you mentioned, you think it needs cutting by quite a bit.
Well,
I know we're going to need to anyway because revenues are down.
Right. The budget, Kevin, we're projected to be a couple $100 million short again. We probably should have had a special session to deal with that, and I'll tell you why I think that. Going forward, we have a short session, 60 days. I believe we'll spend 30 days talking about the budget because, see, the first 30 days we only meet for 2.5 hours in the morning from about 9:30 till noon. And so we'll whine and we'll complain and we'll cry about the budget for about 30 days, and then we'll finally make a decision. And then we'll move forward and we'll balance it. We always do. And then Senator Chambers will take 20 days with his filibusters, and I don't know what they are. I spoke to him yesterday, and he didn't tell me that. And then that leaves us 10 days to get something done. And so the budget's a very serious thing, and we got to deal with that first and foremost. And had they adopted my budget last year, we wouldn't be talking about this.
All right. Well, you're going to offer it again? Same thing? Something similar?
We'll make adjustments to this year's budget, and when the next biennium budget comes out, if the petition passes, we'll be talking about something totally different.
Okay. Other priorities you might have as far as legislation?
One of the major priorities that I'm going to try to do is change the way we value ag land from market to income. We've worked on that pretty serious last year. My bill was brought together with the governor's bill and brought out in that 461 bill that had income tax and property tax relief. And I was told by many of the urban senators, had my bill come out by itself, it would have passed. And so we're working on making that more simple, refining that so it's easier to understand for the assessment people and the assessors division in the counties, as well as the agricultural people who get their land valued that way. So we've got to make a change from market to income. It's got to be more realistic to what they're earning as to how much they're paying. And so that's my other goal.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming in before this session. Good luck down there. You guys have a lot of things to do.
I appreciate the offer, Kevin. Thank you so much.
You bet.